Okay, it is Monday, March 10th, 2025. I call this business session of the Elizabeth School District to order at 6 p.m. Can I get a roll call, please?
Director Callahan?
Here.
Director Fletcher?
Here.
Director Olson?
Here.
Director Powell?
Here.
And Director Waller is just running a few minutes late. Be here shortly.
Okay, so let's go ahead and stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Is that public comment? I'll take care.
Okay, I move that the board approve the agenda for this March 10th business meeting as presented.
Second?
Any discussion? Okay. Can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Next up, I move that we approve the minutes from the Board of Education meeting on February 24th, 2025 as presented.
Second.
Any discussion on those? All right. Can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
Okay. Motion approved. Next up, we have our communications section. First up, board member reports. Does anybody have anything
I
that
don't
they?
have anything.
Okay.
I've been swamped. We have a fact meeting on the 25th? Is
Yeah.
that what it got rescheduled?
Yeah, we realized it was during spring break. That,
Yeah.
they wouldn't have worked.
Right.
I have.
Go ahead.
I'll go, if you want to go ahead, go
Yep,
ahead.
go for it.
I was just going to say, I got to, the last couple of weekends, I got to attend our theatrical presentations from both of our high school and our middle school. Make sure I do the right one every time. And they were both, as always, they were both very fun to watch. So good job on those. On behalf of the Elizabeth Education Foundation, I'd like to invite everybody to our fundraiser this Friday at Ziggy's. Ziggy's Coffee here in Elizabeth. And it's from 6 o'clock in the morning till 6 p.m. So go in there and mention Elizabeth Education Foundation or Elizabeth Schools, and they will count your purchase toward a total to give a percentage for the donation to the Elizabeth Education Foundation. And I'd just also like to wish everybody a happy spring break for next week, both
Yes.
students and staff and administrators, and hopefully it's a nice, refreshing time.
All right. Well, I had the TAC meeting last week. It was great. It's nice being able to converse with teachers and hear firsthand any issues that they have, what's going on. I also stopped by the job fair briefly on Saturday. It was a hit and miss, or hit and run, should I say? But it was a very positive environment. Got some good
Got some
applications.
Great candidates that we've
Mhm.
hired. So
Yeah.
It looked like it was pretty busy because I had to drive by there for something else, and I forgot. I mean, the
Yeah.
signs are right there, but I
Yeah.
forgot. But anyway, I'm driving by, I'm like, why is it so busy there today? And then on the way back, I'm like, oh,
Yeah.
that's why.
Yep.
So it looked like there was a
It was
lot
great,
of
yeah.
traction, so
it's
that's
pretty
great.
steady traffic
Yeah.
throughout the day.
That's good.
So
Okay.
We enjoyed the Q&A with the teachers
Oh, yeah.
at the high school. That was really good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It started off slow, but I thought it was a really good event. And y'all do those like what, once a quarter?
we're trying to do them. We're trying to do them once a semester. So
Okay.
I know
So
Adam's
each
going to
school.
come back to see if we
Right.
can do one more before the end of the year.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
Kind of at each school, right?
yeah,
We're
each
at different
school.
locations each
Yeah,
time.
we're,
Yeah.
Yeah.
and so
I had one of the teachers corner me in the getting water, but she just wanted to thank us for what the things we're doing. I was like, well, I haven't been there. It's just these guys.
You'll pass it on.
but she was very thankful for the retirement, the work that y'all have done on the retirement plans and everything, and so yeah, it was very positive.
All right. You're up.
All right, my update. I have a superintendent forum the Wednesday after spring break, so March 26th. Just want to make sure I mention that out loud. We'll be sending that out in a superintendent update this week. Next week is spring break, and it's a great time for many of our year-round employees to take a little time off. So there may be some closures in some of our offices. It'll depend on who's taking what day off. So we'll have signs posted if any of the offices are closed. We're really excited about our direct explicit instruction initiative that we have our trainer, Dr. Zach Rochelle, who will be here on March 24th, which is our PD day. You know, we've had a few parents say, can we cancel that and make it a student day to make up for some of the snow days? Again, we've got a national trainer coming in, so that one we could not, but really excited about it, and the conversations with teachers and the conversations with administrators have been really good. Of course, board members are welcome to join us. We have high school 8 to 10. We have elementary 1 to 3, and then the middle portion of the day is a lunch with administrators to really talk through with Dr. Crichel kind of what we should expect, how to support staff and teachers. So when we talk about direct explicit instruction, it really is about keeping kids engaged in the content throughout the period. Public education has moved to a lot of facilitating learning. And kids work in small groups and they work together. And while that can be great for some kids need to be taught. They need to be given the content and taught the skills necessary to be successful. And so really trying to shift our teachers back to thinking about how can I make sure I know what my intention is today, what do I expect students to learn, how will I know if they learned it, and how do I make sure that every student in the room is actually engaged in that learning. So I'm really excited about that initiative, and certainly we'll be sharing a lot more. Some of the teachers that were there on Saturday were really excited to hear that. I think, you know, when students are given lots of free time in class, needless to say, sometimes students get disengaged and find other things to do. So we're really excited about that. We will have a DAC parent survey coming out. Rhonda's our board member on DAC, and that parent survey will come out hopefully before the end of the week. And then we'll resend it out right after break so that parents who may not check their email because of whatever's going on next week will make sure that it's sent out both before and after. And it'll be a great opportunity for parents to give feedback on their schools. So for parents who have children in multiple schools, it'll ask you to answer on one school, and then it'll let you go back and select another school. So we really want to make sure we get feedback on each of our schools that our principals and our building leadership teams can use to make sure that we're continuing to try to improve our services. And then I do want to talk a little about STARS. Bill King, our president of our foundation, is here. STARS is probably one of my most favorite events. It's when we recognize kids for something that we don't do a whole lot of, which is recognize kids for just great character. And we've got amazing kids here in Elizabeth, and that is an exciting night, kind of like the Emmy Awards night. Anyone who hasn't been to one, it's a great feeling. Cafeteria is decorated, and really a great opportunity to recognize kids who just are great kids. And I think sometimes, as I said, we don't recognize that enough. So April 12th, it's a Saturday evening when that event will be held at the high school. And certainly we want to make sure that people know about that. Children will be nominated here in the next, I don't think
We've
they're
got
not
the
all,
nominations.
are they all in now? Okay, I wasn't sure if we were still accepting up through Friday. So parents will be notified that their child has been nominated and will be recognized here in the coming weeks. Yeah.
Your student and two?
Yep.
It is.
Yes.
Yep.
It's a lot of fun.
Yeah.
It really is.
The board is all invited, so
Mhm.
Yep.
try to put that date on the calendar.
Yep.
When was it?
April 12th, and I
5:30
believe
to
it's,
8.
yeah, 5:30 to,
It's at the high school.
yeah, 5:30 to 7:30 on April 12th at the high school. So, okay, I think that's enough for me. Thank you.
Okay. Well, with that, we have public comment. See, we've got a few people signed up.
Yeah.
All right. First up, we have Bill King.
Bill, if you would go ahead and turn that microphone on, and then we can just leave it on until,
I think you have
You
to
have to
hold it
hold
until
it.
it turns
Yeah.
red.
hold it, and then the,
Yeah,
Wow.
should be
Yes.
good.
Okay.
If you got numbers, you're good.
Okay, got numbers. Thank you. Good evening. Good evening, my name is William King. I've lived here in Elbert County for 20-plus years, and I reside within the Elizabeth School District area. I'm here tonight to talk to you about the Elizabeth School District cell phone policy and proposed changes. We all know that the cell phone I hold here has enough power to send a man to the moon. It also has the power to save lives in emergencies. And if used maliciously, it can cause death. And in extreme cases, it can be relied upon, it can relay an individual's final message of love to their family, as we found out during 9/11 and even in Columbine. The policy changes the BOE is being asked to consider present a double-edged sword. I urge the BOE to move slowly and with extreme caution. A great number of people within the community oppose a total ban on cell phone access to students during the school day. Conversely, cell phone access during classroom instruction, testing, and by teachers for personal calls during class time poses an extreme disruption. It poses a extreme disruptive situation to good classroom order and discipline. The issue falls within classroom management. Law and order cannot and should not be viewed as black and white. Neither should the Elizabeth School District or this board's cell policy. There are shades of gray to be considered in everything in life. Many with harmful consequences, and many with liabilities, which may be costly. I urge you, move slowly. I realize it's a problem. Stay with that. Don't jump to conclusions or anything like that. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill.
Thank you. Okay, next up we have Shelley Manning.
Hi. I keep hearing students are at the heart of everything we do, and parental choice. This is regarding the cell phone policy. 2 words, classroom management and safety. Is the current policy not enforced? That's classroom management. Will the parents and guardians and their child or children be able to reach one another in case of an emergency? That's safety. Excuse me. What happens if a student is disruptive, or worse, a teacher is disruptive? Again, classroom management. How does a student access safe to tell if they do not have their phone with them? That's a major safety issue. Would the board please consider the following? No use of cell phones, devices during classroom instruction. Put it on silent mode, yet remain with the student. Use of cell phones, devices be allowed in between classes, at lunchtime, on the bus, and at activities. No confiscation whatsoever. Does a teacher and district want the liability if the phone or device is lost, stolen, or broken while in their possession? Please do not restrict the students from their devices because a teacher is not able to manage their classroom. And please, 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 do not put the kids in peril because their phones are out of reach in case of an emergency. Just last week, an explosive device was found in a Ponderosa High School student's backpack. A person or persons told, and a tragedy was averted. How would you feel if that happened to our students and no one was able to tell someone?
Okay, next we have Chrissy Howell.
Good evening. Normally, I do use cell phone etiquette, and I have my phone in my purse all the time, during meetings, every single time. Today, I'm going to utilize my cell phone for my notes. Cell phones are already required to keep phones turned off in class. What you're proposing is no phones at lunch. That's personal free time for a child. No phones during passing period. No phones on the bus. No access to Safe to Tell app during school. No 911 access during school. Our kids will literally have zero ability to use their phone during their free time. No ability to use them for group projects. No ability to read a book from their Kindle app. This does not negate the fact that parents have a right to know where their children are, and their children have a right to their personal property and ability to contact their legal guardian in an event big or small. Turn them on silent, put them away during class. Seems like a no-brainer. There are teachers already gleefully bragging about taking your kid's phone because they can, and buying boxes to lock them away, taking total control over your private property. Imagine evacuating a school after an explosive was found on the grounds and only seeing a static, unmoving dot representing your child because they were also forced to leave their belongings behind when evacuating. You don't know if your kid is in the building or if they're safe. Oh wait, there was an explosive found at Ponderosa High School just last week. After law enforcement was called and after the bomb squad was called, communication is not only important but plays a big role in comforting a very scared child in a time of crisis. This is totally unacceptable. We do not need more rules. Enforce what's already in place. Teach cell phone etiquette and responsibilities. Teach engaging content and classroom management. This is absolutely disturbing for somebody who has known families that have gone through the total destruction of another family during Columbine, during other mass shootings, being shot at myself in Aurora, driving down the road, and needing to call somebody for help. Reconsider what you're doing.
Okay, next up we have Brady, my pronouncer, Pfeiffer?
You got it.
All right.
Thank you to the board for putting this on. You guys volunteering your time, appreciate it. I'm in favor of a full cell phone ban at the schools. Our society is battling a serious epidemic of anxiety, depression, self-harm across all ages, but especially increased in our younger generation. I kind of straddle those generations. I had access to a flip phone when I was in high school, and I can tell you the distractions at that time were high. I can't imagine what it's like now with modern smartphones and social media. I'm sure you're all aware of the statistics of how prevalent self-harm, depression, anxiety has increased. As a parent of young children too, hearing things about the average age children are exposed to pornography is now 8 because of the access to these phones, and most of that time that's occurring at school, on the bus, in the hallways, in the lunchroom. I don't believe there's any reasonable argument why students need cell phones during school hours. You all talk plenty about the distractions that they pose. There's been a lot of talk about in the worst case scenarios, the what ifs. I think that's not the prudent way to make those decisions. That's catastrophizing and fear-based on a 1 in a million chance. What we know is every day the students are trying to battle against this invasive technology. And that's what the board should be taking into account when they make this decision. What goes on every day, not what's the worst case one-time issue in a what-if scenario. Banning schools or banning phones during the school hours will help empower parents to place boundaries on this technology. There's lots of polling that's been done that the majority of parents in our situation would be more forceful on placing boundaries and holding off on the technology if they didn't feel alone, if they didn't feel like I have to get my kid one because everyone else has one, and that's the feedback we get in the home. By the board placing this ban into effect, putting this policy in, you communicate that to the community that you stand with those parents as we try to find the healthy boundary for this technology. Again, like I said, I'd be in support of a full ban. I think trying to find middle grounds of, well, they can have it during lunch hours, they can have it in the, it's just silent, just in their pocket. That's too high of a temptation for students to try and navigate. I think we need to be the parents for them, the grown-ups for them, and put this temptation, this distraction out of their pockets during school hours. So, thank you very much.
Thank you. Next up, we have Tim and Tony Cashman.
It'll just be Tim, thank you.
Oh.
Good evening. Thanks, Tim Cashman. I am a member in the district. I've had the great pleasure of raising 6 boys, still 2 in this district. 2 of them there in the high school, but started out elementary, middle school, and now into the high school. I have to apologize because I don't know the existing policy, and I have not read it. I don't know that the students know exactly what the policy is, which is disturbing in itself. At the beginning of every school year, teachers have expectations that they lay out for the students, and they write a syllabus. The syllabus does come home, and a lot of times the parent's required to sign that syllabus as well too, so the parent is fully aware of what the expectation is of the child in that classroom per the teacher who's going to be performing the duties of managing that classroom and teaching the curriculum. So I have to think that, number one, why do the students not know what the blanket across the board cell phone policy is? Now, I will tell you, I know at the elementary school it's one, middle school they do a little bit of a different type of process where they're doing the pockets in the back of the door. In the high school, there's actually no standardized policy whatsoever because it is up to the individual teacher to do as they seem fit for their classroom. Now, with that being said, I do know that with this kind of a blanket make your own policy, that when there's infractions that are going on in the classroom, there seems to be a classroom management discipline that is not being brought forth. Now, how would they know if they're not enforcing it, if they have not been told about it? How would you expect these students to kind of grasp this whole concept of what's going on? Safety is a big issue. I agree with most persons that spoke before me. This is a issue, I believe, that is going to take a heck of a lot more than just this meeting and one section for public opinion to come to speak to you about this. This is a whole lot greater than sitting down after this and let's take a vote. I would say that wrongly implementing a complete ban, watch the exodus. Thank you.
So next up, we have consent items. So I move that the board approve consent items as presented. We have 8.1 through 8.7.
Second.
And can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
And Director Waller?
Okay, motion approved. Next up, we have discussion items. First up is 9.1, which is the non-appropriation of the Power Schools contract. So
Want to
you
discuss it first?
Yeah.
So in Colorado, no multi-year contract can be enforceable, and ultimately what that does is it prevents one board from committing the funds of another board. And so even when a district signs a multi-year contract, there is a required non-appropriations clause in that contract that says that if a board decides that we're not going to continue this practice or what this contract was for, that the board has the right to say, we're going to non-appropriate funds for this particular thing. It can be for people, it can be for contracts, goods, services, whatever it may be. We have an unusual situation here in that we have 3 products from this company named Power Schools, 2 of which we are open to continuing to use, and 1 that we no longer need. It was one that a prior leader in the district had started, and it's a part of that multi-year contract. We have worked with Power Schools to attempt to cancel that particular element, and unfortunately this company has taken a stand to say, well, you can't cancel just part of it. And so we have, as a result, gone out to look at similar products that would address the areas that we still need support in. And at this point, we are asking the board to non-appropriate funds to this contract. We need to notify them. There's a clause within the contract that says we must notify them if there's movement to cancellation so many days, which is why we're bringing this forward. While we haven't brought you the full budget, I can tell you that the work that we've been doing behind the scenes to look at our staffing and our current contractual obligations, this is a contract that we would prefer not to continue. So we're asking you tonight to go ahead and move to non-appropriate funds for this particular contract so that we can meet within the obligations of that contract to notify this company that we will cease all 3 products at the end of the year.
And we have replacements for the
Yes.
2 that we want.
Yeah. Correct. Yeah. And they're less expensive.
Even better.
Yeah.
All right, with that, I move to non-appropriate funds in the 25-26 year for the current contract with Power School for the products outlined.
Second.
Any further discussion? All right, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan?
Aye.
Director Fletcher?
Aye.
Director Olson?
Aye.
Director Powell?
Aye.
And Director Waller?
Okay, motion approved. Next up, we have modification of the 24-25 school calendar year, modifying by adding May 22nd as a student staff day.
So I think all board members have been monitoring our instructional calendar. We typically build in 5 snow days into our calendar. This year has been, we used 3 of them in November with that interesting storm we had early November. We monitor our instructional hours to make sure that we don't drop below those. If we drop below the required instructional hours, we run the risk of, during an audit in the future, having funds taken back from the school district. And so we are within 1 hour of dropping below that. So we do not have any longer the option of calling a delayed start when the weather is expected to clear. We are right now being forced to pivot to a remote day. So even if we know that in an hour from now it's going to clear, but we can't get our buses on the road to get kids to school on time, we no longer have that tool. We have proposed, we've talked with staff, we are proposing that we add May 22nd as a half day. Our district has in the past ended school on the last day has been a half day for students, a half day for staff. So we're proposing that we do that. That gives us 2 more late starts that we can, in those instances, like last week, where had we waited a couple of hours, we could have had school, allowed parents to go about their day. We're asking that that day be converted. Now, any parent that has vacation planned, I want to make that very clear. If someone's already booked tickets because that was supposed to be a non-student day, those students will be excused. The other advantage of adding that day is currently the high school needs 4 days to do their final schedule. They have 8 classes and they do 2 a day. Right now they're, based on our schedule, having to start that on Friday. We've made sure that all future calendars have 4 days that last week. This calendar did not have that. And so by doing this, it will allow the high school also to issue their finals within that final week, of 4-day week, and have all students then be transported home at midday. So buses will run at the midday point, get the students home that day. So that's what we're requesting. It seems like our best option. I know there's been some calls for why don't we just do without our late start. Challenge with that is late start is important. I know people think, oh, it's teachers come in later. No, teachers come in at the same time. That's when teachers are looking at data. That's when teachers are working as a department to modify plans to make sure that what they're doing is most effective for kids. We also have a number of speakers and professional development lined up for teachers between now and the end of the year. So doing away with that would also cause us to end up paying for professional development that we could not then have delivered. So this seems like the best option. Obviously, we're hopeful that this winter will go away sooner than later. It's been an extremely odd winter, and I can agree that there have been days that would have been nice to have called something different. So I wish I had a crystal ball to always make the perfect call. But obviously, that's been challenging. So this will give us 2 more days within our quiver to make sure that should there be a day where it's just a matter of letting the wind die down and snow not to blow, make 0 visibility, that we'll have that ability to call it and not have to pivot to a remote day that impacts parents the entire day. So.
All right. I move to approve the modification to the 24-25 calendar, changing May 22nd to a half-day for students, keeping the remaining half-day as a teacher work day, last day for staff.
Second?
Any further discussion on that one? No?
Seems
Okay.
pretty obvious.
Yeah, it really is. All right, gonna get a roll call.
Director Callahan.
Aye.
Director Fletcher.
No.
Director Olson.
Aye.
Director Powell.
Aye.
And Director Waller.
Aye.
All right, motion approved. Next up, approval of our new auditor, Wall Smith Bateman Incorporated.
So we have gone out to bid. Our current auditor has been the district auditor for quite a few years. We're actually trying to calculate, and it goes back certainly well before 2019. We believe probably 5 or 6 years before that. So anyways, Hinkle and Associates has been our current auditor. We've had numerous challenges with our working relationship with that particular firm. This year in particular, where we ended up having to ask for a delay to actually get the audit done, and all of that. So because typically the board is asked to regularly look at audit proposals and look at is there a need for a change, we believe it is time for a change. We did go out for bid, and we do have both our current auditor and 2 additional auditors, which is three in particular that we are presenting to you. We interviewed, invited our FAC. I know Mike Callahan was able to join us for the interviews. I would say either of the other companies would do a great job. I don't think there was one that was necessarily better than the other than the experience with Skyward, which is really going to be helpful. We've implemented a new business software as a district. That's been, obviously, anytime you implement a new business software, there's always those challenges. Wall Smith Bateman actually walked through that with another district who implemented the very same system. And so having an auditor familiar with our finance system, we like giving them full transparency, giving them access to our system so they can look at all transactions within the district. So having a company like Wall Smith Bateman who has that knowledge and experience will allow them to really be helpful to us. Wall Smith Bateman also engages year-round, so typically auditors wait until you say, okay, my books are closed, here they are. Wall Smith Bateman is a company that actually works throughout the year, stays in contact, answers questions. Their goal is to make sure that they are helping guide the district to ensuring that it's complying with all of the accounting rules and regulations. And so based on all of that, we are recommending that Wall Smith Bateman be selected. They are the cheapest firm, and I will just explain that because obviously when you look at Hinkle's original letter, they set an amount. This year we will exceed the amount that Wall Smith Bateman will charge us next year because of the additional time that was required to actually get across the finish line with our current. So we are probably at $26,000 to $27,000 so far for our current auditor. Their proposal was 15. But obviously it always has that and the additional hours. Wall Smith Bateman is guaranteed to not exceed the amount that's in their contract. So,
Yeah.
I'm sorry?
Done.
Done,
On
okay.
fixed price, got it.
Yeah, so we are excited. I have experience with Wall Smith Bateman. I've worked with them in other districts. They're one of the top firms in the state that does school district auditing, as the other company that we interviewed. Like I said, either of them would be great. Wall Smith Bateman had the edge with that Skyward experience. So that's our recommendation.
Okay. I move to approve the selection of Wall Smith and Bateman as our new auditing firm, beginning with the audit of the 24-25 school year.
Second?
Any discussion?
You were good?
Yeah,
You were liking?
yeah, it was a good interview.
No.
Yeah. They were both good interviews.
Yeah.
I mean, they know our software, they
Yeah.
come in under, it's a win-win.
It's a win-win.
Yeah.
For
Okay.
sure.
Yep, I agree. Okay, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan,
Aye.
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell,
Aye.
and Director Waller.
Aye.
All right, motion approved. Okay, next, oh, we have a few, huh? Next, we have our second and final reading of revised policy BDB, School Board Officers. So there were some changes made to the policy that we discussed at the prior meeting. So I move that the board approve the second and final reading of revised policy BDB, School Board Officers as presented.
Second?
And discussion.
I still have a question with regard to the treasurer duties, the number 3 on there. I just not sure what this practically means. Sign either by written signature or facsimile, so this is you as treasurer. All warrants or orders drawn on the county treasurer or checks drawn on district depository. And then number 4, I kind of get, it's like deposit to our credit, the stuff we get from the treasurer, I get that. But what would we
Actually,
sign
both
now?
you and Mike sign all checks.
It's a digital signature.
It's a
The
digital
digital
signature, okay,
signature,
but-
that's why it's a facsimile.
But drawn on the county treasurer?
Yeah, it's odd wording.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's, this is the recommended policy. So checks drawn on the district depository is probably more of the common aspect. I don't think we draw on the county treasurer unless, except for the fact that we do bill them for the taxes that are due to us.
So we bill them.
And so, yeah.
So that's
yeah,
kind of,
Yeah, that's.
so
you-
is
you-
our signatures on?
Your job is to make sure that happens, just
Yeah.
like as secretary, you're not taking the minutes, you're
Right,
ensuring that the
right.
minutes are taken.
Okay.
So in this case, it's a treasurer, and because you're the secretary, you attest to
Yeah, we're
that.
both on the bank
So
thing, yeah.
so all requests for dollars and all checks are signed by the two of you.
So both
Yeah,
directions.
yeah.
Okay, I just wanted to be sure. 'cause
Yeah,
that's
it
really
is,
weird.
I wish it were worded in a
Yeah,
more,
could
maybe
we work
21st
out some
century
other
format.
drawing?
Yeah, yeah,
I got,
yeah.
Get a
I
diagram.
got a big bill coming up,
Yeah.
can I
Yeah.
put something?
Yeah, yeah.
No, just kidding.
Yeah, no. It is worded oddly, but it is because you all are the authorized signatures on those requests for monies to come to the district that are due, as well
Okay.
as money that goes
Yeah.
out to pay
Okay.
bills, so.
Yeah, I knew our signatures were on something, but it
Yeah.
just seemed odd that direction, but.
Yeah.
Okay, as long as practicality and the reality is there.
Yeah.
Okay, any further discussion on that one? All right, can you get a roll call?
Director Callahan,
Aye.
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell,
Aye.
and Director Waller.
Aye.
All right, motion approved. Next up, second and final reading of revised policy BEC, executive sessions. So again, there's changes that we made that were discussed at the prior meeting.
I'll just share that we are going to have our attorney here present at the next meeting to go through this. I think it's important for the public to understand what are executive sessions, when can you hold them, why do you hold them, what happens afterwards. So just with approving this policy tonight, this is, I think, second and final, yes. We'll also have a chance for our council to really educate our community about what is executive session, when is it used, when is it appropriate to be used, et cetera. So that'll be at our next meeting.
Okay, so I move that the board approve the second and final reading of revised policy BEC, executive sessions.
Second?
Any further discussion? Yeah, I don't see any issues with it as it's written, so, with no more discussion, roll call.
Director Callahan,
Aye.
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell,
Aye.
and Director Waller.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Next up, our first and final reading of revised policy EBCE, school closings and cancellations.
So primarily, this is to update to the current practice. The prior policy said the Director of Transportation is the one who was responsible to make those calls. Our calls are usually based upon, can the majority of students make it to school? And of course, we put out messages to parents. It is always a parent's right to say, where I live, it's not safe. My child's going to be excused from school today. I recognize how critical it is for parents to know that kids can go to school. So buses running is important. There may be days that one bus can't run. That's not going to cause us to cancel school. That's going to say we're going to notify families the Tiger bus may not run today because of the conditions in the area. So this is reshifting that authority to me to make sure that, again, if the majority of students can make it safely to school, we should hold school. We always empower parents to make decisions. It can be blizzarding up in Sun Country and it can be sunny here, unfortunately. It's quite an interesting Colorado weather pattern. So, so most of the changes here are just correcting how we operate because we no longer leave it to the Director of Transportation.
Okay. So, I think I need a second. Did I already make the motion on that? I thought I did. Okay. I move that the board approve the first and final reading of revised policy EBCE, school closings and cancellations.
Second.
All right. Any further discussion on that one? Okay.
And
Can I
it
get
was labeled as a first reading, but it was brought for discussion last meeting.
So you've looked at it
You've
twice,
looked at it
just the
twice.
first one wasn't an official
No, yeah.
where you made a motion.
Okay. All right. So can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan,
Aye.
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell,
Aye.
and Director Waller.
Aye.
Okay, motion approved. Next up, the first and final reading of revised regulation, EBCE-R, school closings and cancellations. Again, changes were made to the policy that were discussed at the prior meeting.
And this is the regulation that goes with the policy we just discussed. So it's, again, just providing more detail of how we make those decisions.
Okay, so I move that the board approve the first and final reading of revised policy EBCE, school closings and cancellations.
Second.
One question I had, do we need to put any reference to remote instruction in here?
It is in the first one.
So we don't need it in the regulation?
Yeah, no,
Okay.
EBCE does outline that should we run into an issue with instructional minutes, that the district could pivot to
Okay.
remote learning. So
Okay.
we hope not to have to do that, but
Okay.
obviously this year we are.
All right. Can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan,
Aye.
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell,
Aye.
and Director Waller.
Aye.
All right. Motion approved. Next, our first reading of replacement policy, GBGH, our sick leave bank.
So this policy I brought to your attention, I think at the last meeting, that we wanted to try to align CASB and class both have a single policy for sick leave bank, and yet we've had two. We have one that's classified staff for our support staff, our bus drivers, our paras, our office staff, our non-licensed individuals whose jobs don't require a Colorado license, and then we have a licensed sick leave bank. The policies were very different. So for our classified staff, a lower paid employee, to join their sick leave bank, they have to give up 2 leave days, where teachers give up 1. That's one example. Our licensed staff allow maternity leave to be covered. Our classified staff didn't. And so we really felt like we needed to be very aligned and consistent with what people have to do to join their sick leave bank and how they can access and what are the conditions under which they can, and felt like this business of, oh, you're classified, you can't, but you can, just seemed very odd. We will still maintain 2 sick leave banks. So we'll maintain a licensed sick leave bank and a classified sick leave bank with a number of days. Employees will now contribute on the same process. The other policies had different processes when you had to kick in another day versus the other group when they kicked in another day. So now it's consistent. If it drops below 499 days, people contribute another day to make sure that that bank is always healthy. So really what we did was we took the 2 policies, aligned it. There's one other thing that we did include, because administrators fell in one or the other. If you are a licensed administrator, meaning you have to have a Colorado Department of Education license, like me as a superintendent or principal, they pulled from the license bank. If they were a director like Andrew Rodriguez, who's our Director of Facilities and Maintenance, who doesn't have to have a CD license, he pulls from the classified bank. One bank had the requirement that you exhaust all but 5 days of your vacation time, but the other bank didn't. And so we've aligned that as well to say that employees who are 12-month employees who also earn vacation time, they earn discretionary leave or sick leave, they also earn vacation time, that before they can access this, they should use all but 5 days. So if someone gets really sick, they're hospitalized in October, we recognize they may need some time off later in the year, and so we're going to let them hang on to 5 vacation days, but they must use all but 5 days before they can access. So this just ensures that we're consistent. The other thing we added in here is that the Classified Advisory Council reviews requests from classified staff. The licensed staff are reviewed by our Teacher Advisory Council. Administrators have been reviewed by one or the other, and again, not looked at with the view of an administrator. So we're recommending that that comes to Superintendent Cabinet. It'll still go to the appropriate council, either Teacher Advisory or Classified Advisory Council, to do final approval, but an administrative group will look at it and say, okay, this person, have they met the criteria before they can use, and all of that's outlined in the policy. So that summarizes the changes. We're just recommending we get all of these into one policy. This, I believe, will come back. This is first reading, so we'll come back to you at the 24th for final approval, and then we will ask you to repeal the classified policy, because then they'll all be covered within one. So,
Are we ready for discussion, or do we need the motion?
we need a motion first, I think.
Okay, I move that the board approve the first reading of replacement policy GBGH, sick leave bank.
Second.
All right. I really like what you've done with this, because
Yeah.
it seems like it makes things more consistent and more fair.
Yeah,
Yeah.
across
So-
the
It
board.
definitely is.
Everyone's
Smart
playing by
move,
the same
too.
rules.
Exactly, love it.
There's just a couple of things I wanted
Mhm.
to just ask about. So in
Mhm.
the first, well, it's the second paragraph on the first page. It's
Mhm.
the first purple paragraph.
Mhm.
It says to sustain, and then to your point of what you said before, then on page
Yeah.
3, it talks about use up all but 5 days. So
Yeah.
that seemed inconsistent.
Yeah, they use up accumulated leave. You're right, we probably could add in accumulated leave as outlined in the policy. Because again, depending on which group you're in, if you're a 12-month employee, you have vacation leave, which is outlined in the policy. If you're not, you only have discretionary leave, and that's outlined in the policy. So maybe we just need to say, and does not have outlined accumulated leave. I don't know what the best wording is, Mary.
Yeah, I'm not sure, I have to think about it, but that just felt
We
inconsistent,
can,
so.
since this is first reading, we
Yeah,
can
we can
add
work-
something in there
massage
and
the
then,
words, yeah.
bring it back to you.
Yeah, that
So
sounds
I'll
good.
just make sure we address that.
And then under the certified leave one, I know under, when we get to the classified one, it says classified sick bank. I think, just to clarify and make sure everything is clear, we need to add in certified sick leave bank at the bottom of page one.
We have certified sick leave bank, and then the next paragraph is classified sick
Yeah,
leave bank.
but
and
just
then-
in the language.
Oh.
It's specific, it specifies.
Oh, I see.
So, just for clarity.
So it should be, so
Yeah.
add the word certified where it's
Yeah.
talking about certified. Okay, that makes sense, thank
Oh,
you.
under A.
Yeah. What used to be A, yeah.
And under administrative procedures, under, I guess, paragraph A there,
Mhm.
I know later it kind of talks about, you know, the number of days that have to be given. But in that kind of added language, it says, they will contribute one of their discretionary days to the bank during their first year of membership. So is this just like so this is just their first time, that's how they
Mhm.
kind of become a member?
That's how they become a member, they
Okay.
give up a day.
Okay, and so then every year thereafter, does everybody add one more year? or-
Only if the bank drops below the number of hours, so.
So it's really just one time you're giving up one
You're giving up
unless the
one,
bank
yeah.
drops
When the
too low.
bank drops below 499 days, then everyone kicks in now a day if you're in your first so many years.
Yeah,
So
Okay.
again, it's consistent between both where they weren't before. so.
right, okay. Okay. So those are just a couple of comments, so maybe I'll just send a couple of
Yeah,
suggestions and then.
any
it can
any
be-
language,
Yeah, then we
any
can look at it
language
next time.
clarification. We want to make sure
Yeah.
it's very clear.
Yeah.
It might be good for us to actually accept these
Changes
changes
first.
and then let you read, because I know it's
Yeah,
hard with the
it is,
crossouts.
it
and
is, so that would be a good idea.
So why don't we do that?
But
and
I
we'll
just
send
think
it out to
especially
you.
with the, you know, the TAC and the CAC kind of being the,
Mhm.
it's really important because that's gonna have a fluctuating membership.
Yeah.
We wanna be sure that the policy is very, very clear so
Agreed.
everybody knows how to apply it. And I love that it's combined and I think it's really good, but there's just a couple of,
Yeah. We want to make it as clear as
Clarity
possible, and that's
issues,
what
I
we
think.
count on you. We read it so many times, it
well,
makes
that's
sense to
just
us.
it. You
so-
all know exactly what you're doing, but this
Well,
is all brand new to me,
but
right?
yeah, but no, but
So-
you're reading it and then having it make sense is important, because
Yeah.
staff will need to do the same. But we have not pushed this as much as we should. I mean, this is quite a benefit for
Mm-hmm.
someone. And we've had a couple situations this year where someone has been hospitalized, had an accident, and they weren't members. And so, you know, there's been talk in the district about, oh, can we donate days? We specifically don't allow that, because that puts an employee in the position of, well, what if they end up in an accident and they've given their days to you because
Yeah.
you were out, now I don't have days,
Mhm.
and will anyone give them to me? So
Yeah.
we intentionally don't allow employees to donate days to each other, because
Mhm.
if they give a day, they actually have access to this
Yeah.
large pool.
This is an amazing benefit, it
So,
really is, yeah.
so we've had people say, can I donate my days too? The reality is we just need to do a better job when an employee joins our team, and it does say 30 days if they join during the middle of the year that they're offered the opportunity. I don't think we've done a great job with that. So this will become a major push in the paperwork for our Human Resources Department to make sure that when an employee is being onboarded, they understand
Yeah.
that this is a huge, huge benefit.
Good, I like it.
All right, can I get a roll call?
Director Callahan,
Aye.
Director Fletcher,
No.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell,
Aye,
and Director Waller.
All right, motion approved.
so this will go then to second reading.
Yeah, it'll go to second reading. And Mary, anything we'll accept the changes and then send it back out to all of you,
That
so.
would be good, because it
It'll
does
be
get a little
easier to read.
onerous after a
Yeah,
while with all the
yeah,
purple and.
with all- yeah, purple and red and
Oh.
green and blue.
Yeah,
Okay, next up, we have our first reading of replacement policy, JICJ, student use of cell phones and other personal technology. devices. And again, this policy was recommended by the Teacher Advisory Council. They came with the first revision. We've made edits. So this is the feedback that we've received from them and from us so far.
So a couple things, I think even a couple of the speakers spoke about the fact that we do have policy that clearly says cell phones don't belong in schools, they shouldn't be on during instructional time. I think what teachers have said is it's left to interpretation. So what I think is a good use may not be considered by you a good use of that phone. And now we have kids who are completely confused about, oh, I can in your class, but not in your class, and you'll take it and put it in a pocket. And so their teachers' request was that we have a more consistent policy, that we don't leave it up to you decide, because that just leads kids to not know, you know, where am I, what period am I in, and am I allowed to here or not?
Are you saying children don't understand nuance?
The nuances are like from here to here. That's the challenge. Is it's not. So I think teachers' recommendation is that we come up with a policy that's a little clearer, that outlines. And again, this is our starting point. So I know that it appears as if people think we're ready to adopt this. We're not. I think our point here is to begin the conversation, and I think we're encouraged to take our time, and I think that's our intent, is to continue the conversations. And we do have a parent survey, so I will throw that out, that if we had anything, if the board would like any community feedback, that survey, as I said, hopefully will go out before the end of the week. And so if the board would like to add anything to that survey around this, we do have a district section, and then we have each school section. So as you look at this, certainly keep in mind that if you wanted to get parent feedback from the broad community, we certainly can add something to that as well.
Okay, so I'm going to make a motion so we can get ourselves into discussion. Excuse me. I move that the board approve the first reading of replacement policy JICJ, student use of cell phones and other personal technology devices. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
All right, so let's go into discussion on this one. So there seems to be this conception that the kids aren't gonna have, like, they go into school and we're taking their phone and we're locking it away. And that's not the case. What we're proposing, we understand that some parents feel more comfortable if their child has a cell phone in school. But there's other parents that don't. And we do know there are studies that show that it does interfere with education. So I think that we have a very good middle ground in this policy, that the cell phone is off and it's in your backpack. And my attitude is bell to bell.
Bell to bell, yeah. You can turn it on when you get on the bus, and you can open it up and see if you got a message to not get on the bus that day or whatever.
Well, I read it through thoroughly while we were having all our other discussions. And I don't see in there, if there is an emergent circumstances, yeah, they can access it right out of their backpack. You know.
Well, no, because you have to take into consideration what might be okay for one kid, and maybe it doesn't affect their learning. But when you have a teacher playing a game of whack-a-mole, when you have kids breaking out their phones.
No, I'm
I think
talking
he's talking
about
about
a
emergency
school
situations.
shooting.
Oh.
I'm talking about something,
Okay.
On the second
natural
page, there is
disaster,
a-
tornado.
There's an exceptions paired or section on the second page.
Is it there?
Yeah, about students maybe permitted access to
I mean, it's
the
not
phone.
like they're being removed entirely, the phones, and
Yeah.
I think, yeah, okay.
The phone's this close, right?
Yeah, it's in the
Yeah.
backpack, it just needs to be turned off.
Okay.
And I think it's just, I mean, we are trying to, first of all, our first mission is the education of the kids.
Yes.
And we really need to make it be, so that teachers aren't having to fight the battle against the kids on the phones and getting in late and all of that stuff. We have to be able to have teachers be able to start the teaching right away and teach through the thing, which, I mean, and somebody said, you know, we've got to have better classroom management. We're working on that. I mean, you heard Dan talk about earlier, you heard him talk about this direct instruction situation next year. We've got we've got some amazing plans, and we've got an amazing curriculum that we are really trying to get implemented. So we have that in mind. We know that that is an issue. We need to get the teachers to have, to directly instruct explicitly, put all those words in there, from bell to bell, pretty much, you know. And so that is gonna create much better classroom management. And then, but we've got to have it so that there's not the distraction of these phones that are keeping things away. But the kids will have them available to them, they will be there, they will be put away. But we're not gonna have them, you know, taken away unless they start to abuse it. That's kind of the only time there would be a taken away, if they start to abuse it. Those are kind of some of the violations in which, you know, first offense is, you know, put it away. The second offense is, you know, it has to go to the office and et cetera. But, you know, we have to have consequences. And people were talking about, are we enforcing the current policies? Well, this is, you know, we have to have consequences to enforce. So, anyway, but this will lead to our first goal of a better education. But there will be the safety concerns of the kid will have access to it in an emergency situation if they need it. We have, you know, they can turn it on as soon as the end bell stops, so they can get messages and know whether they're supposed to get on the bus, or if, you know, mom's gonna come pick them up, or whatever the messages are. The parent can send it, you know, during the day. It'll show up as soon as they turn on their phone. I think it's gonna be a matter of both kids and parents just changing habits.
And teachers.
And teachers, yeah.
Is bell to bell this, like, first bell in the morning to the last bell at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Is it?
Yes.
Oh, Jesus.
Oh.
So anyway, so we need to just recognize that the point is to have the classrooms get back under better control without the distraction of the
Even
cell
during
phones.
lunchtime?
Yes. Well, this is what we would like at this point, because, you know,
And
there's,
this is why we're still discussing
yeah,
this as well.
so there's, you know, there's
I
still
think
things
an
we're talking
exception
about.
for lunch might be good to check in to see if you got messages from mom or dad or something.
But we just feel really strongly that, you know, the education thing is the first thing. And we feel that these other adjustments take care of the safety issue, take care of the communication issue that's required. But we just need to change habits. The kids need to just change habits.
When's it working on the class?
We are not
Excuse
supposed to
me.
interact with each other.
Discussion.
Yeah.
So, anyway,
So, if you see what's going on at the middle school was having some issues. And you basically put enforcements on our vague cell phone policy.
And basically, we took the current policy and said, teachers, we can't have it because of what's going on, and we were getting continued complaints about students who were sending inappropriate pictures, students who were bullying each other. That was completely distracting our middle school. I will say one of the things that I have probably has made my week, my month, my year for that matter, is watching at the middle school where kids at lunch are actually talking to each other. They're actually engaging in conversations. I mean, prior to that, this was lunch. And you've got a whole table full of people that maybe could be your friends, but you're there. And that's just, I guess it's something that, we go to a restaurant, we see that, even with adults. We see
Yeah.
people,
Families sitting
husband and
down
wife,
texting.
you know, on their phones, and I don't know. It has been rewarding to see kids actually talk to each other, actually have conversations, go outside and play at recess time, go outside after lunch is over, and so that's, I will say, the positive side of it. I mean, it's a tough topic, and we know
It
people
is.
fall on all sides of the issue, so I think the continued conversation, like I said,
Yeah.
seeking some feedback from parents on the survey might be wise. Lunch, like I said, lunch at the middle school has allowed kids to actually re-engage with each other. Kids who weren't friends are now friends because they now are talking to each other at lunch. But again, it's a tough issue, and I know there's.
We're not the only ones. This is occurring across the country.
Well, we need to know there's a law right now, that if the legislature passes a law, we won't have a choice.
Yeah, Illinois, their governor was talking about it today, I think California as well.
I mean, that bill is likely to be passed at the legislature, highly
It is.
likely. where phones won't be permitted in schools. So whether we act or whether the legislature acts, I think it's a pretty challenging issue. And like I said, lunch or not, that's where I can see value on all sides. And you know, is lunch a time when kids can check in and parents have that ability of being able to connect with their kid? I think that's something. Some schools invest in pockets, like a pencil case, if you will, that phones go in there. That way, you know, if I'm not carrying my backpack, I have something that's still containing my phone, but it's accessible and it's here with me. I mean, those are things too we can talk about. There are some schools that have pockets that literally lock when they go into school and they unlock when they walk out of school. How those work, I have no clue, but there are districts who have invested in that.
It takes 2 weeks, and
That
then you
seems
have
like
manpower.
a lot of money to spend on a device like that. But a pencil case may be, you know, something that kids can have. That way, if they evacuate, they grab it and they take it with them.
I witnessed that firsthand at Regis. They have a huge cart and all these cases and some kind of locking device.
Yeah.
And the kids line up like you wouldn't believe, grabbing their phones.
Yeah, yeah. So I like I said, I'm not sure what the final answer is. This is the beginning of the discussion, but I think there's value on both sides of the argument, and I think just continuing to figure out what's
Well,
happy medium.
And I think allowing the kid to have it, but keep it in their backpack I think it's a good compromise. You know, you're not banning it, but it is there. There has to be consequences. But at what point, I mean, if you would just have empty threats of, you know, turn it off, turn it off, turn it off, then you're just playing a constant game of whack-a-mole. And that distracts from not only that child's learning, but all of the other kids in that classroom. And then, not to mention, you have problems with cell phones being used for bullying, pornography, sexting. I mean, there's all kinds of ways that cell phones are used improperly, and everything that you have to, all the energy that you have to put into that is taken away from academics. And when you look at our scores, I mean, we're trying so many different things, trying to get those scores up, trying to get the kids the education. And, you know, when you have to focus your attention on stuff like this versus curriculum, versus teaching methodologies, it just, I mean, this really, it makes sense to me. And again, it's a first draft, and it's not the final. There's gonna be work, but I really want the kids to be able to focus on academics, interpersonal relationships, where they actually communicate and talk with each other, where they're not late to class because they're hurrying up trying to get those last-minute texts or social media posts in between classes. You know, schools should be, everybody always talks about a safe space, a safe space. How about a safe space for academics?
Yeah, y'all don't know much about me, but I grew up dirt poor. I mean, living one point, all our stuff was thrown out and people were going through it. I came home from school and all our stuff was being pilfered through. So, I mean, it's the living in cars, that sort of thing. And so I went to the poorest schools, right? And schools with x-ray machines. I mean, and this is 1980s, right? So, but I mean, I didn't have a cell phone then, and you could, I don't know if anybody's noticed, I'm short, and I'm white at all black schools, and so it was not safe for me. But I went every day, and I didn't have a cell phone, so and somehow I lived to this moment, but I don't see where we're not taking the phone from, so you ever heard of the 80-20 principle, right? Usually you talk about it in business, right? It's, you know, 80% of the people, or 20% of the people do 80% of the work, or, but, you know, but they found that it actually works in a number of areas, science, and it's like all of a sudden like 80% of the population and a bacteria or whatever seem to exhibit the same. But anyway, it works in law too. Like 80% of citizens just want to other than break occasional speed limit, they generally want to be good citizens. They don't never see the inside of a courtroom, whatever, but then there's like that 15% who are waiting to see what happens to the other 5% who are just bad people, right? They just want to do bad things all the time. And what you're really trying, when you hammer somebody for something or you enact a punishment, you're doing it on the 5% to keep the 15% from doing bad. That's why we don't have one cop for every person in town, right? We have a small force to take care of the 5%, hammer those people, right? And so, I mean, most kids are going to come to school and they're going to keep their phone in their bag. They're not going to take it out. So 80%, that's not the kids we're talking about here, really. We're talking about the 15% who are looking to see what happens to the 5%. So we're going to have to make sure that whatever policy we initiate, that it's being used and that we are hammering the kids who violate this over and over again so that the other 15% get the message. And I think that's, I think there's some wiggle room in here. I mean, I think, I think it talks about having them at the bus or, on school transportation.
Well, and like you said, there's long bus rides.
Yeah, and our transportation department feels like the benefits outweigh the risks, and so they're comfortable right now with us not expanding that through school buses. Yeah.
Word. So I mean, I think there's some give and take in here, but yeah, I think we need to have something that's strict, that we can hammer the kids who are repeated violators, and I don't think that nobody here wants to take anybody's phone, and it's not like we're gonna gather our phones and put them in a shoebox and then you come by and just leave that box in the lobby or anything else. It's in my mind, you put the lock boxes in the school office and the kid puts his phone in there, her phone, and pulls the key and they walk out. And I couldn't get in there even if I really wanted, I could get in there, but it requires some lockpick tools or something. But that's what I foresee.
And another option is too, if the parent doesn't want the kids to put their phone in the locker after repeated violations, then perhaps the parent just comes and picks up the phone.
Which is, outlined in the offenses,
And, we've worked very hard on the security in our district. And we have an armed security officer in every single school, which is, there's no other district, I think, in Colorado that can say that. So, I would feel much more comfortable moving forward with something like this, but, at some point I would love to get Tyler's thoughts on cell phone use during an emergency.
Yeah, and I
The pros
sent
and the
him the
cons.
policy to look at. I think, there's a couple things. One is, I think emergencies is when everyone fears. And again, I think the point of, we're talking about that one occasion, but that occasion is real. It's something I think every parent fears because of unfortunately what's happened in other places. I think, that when we go into lockdown and children are in a room, they move away, so hopefully someone comes to the door, they think nobody's in there. Obviously, everyone's out of sight. That phone ringing could definitely give away the fact that, hey, there's someone in there. Safe to tell can be reported from the Chromebooks that kids have too. So I do want to clarify for people that I could do a safe to tell right now if I wanted to on my computer, as kids can on their Chromebooks. So safe to tell, yes, we get some amazing tips through Safe to Tell, and we appreciate our kids doing that, and we don't want to take that away from them. So there are other
Isn't
avenues.
that supposed to be anonymous, though?
They are anonymous, yeah. So again,
they do it on
anyone.
their Chromebook. can easily be overseen versus on the phone.
Oh,
see
you
what I
mean, you mean someone looking over their shoulder, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, what gets transmitted is anonymous, but yeah, if somebody sees them doing that.
But they can also,
They could see the phone.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think, at least an article that I read, yes, there were safe to tell reports at Ponderosa with this incident last week. But there was also a couple of students who reported it directly to
Mhm.
the teacher or some, or
Mhm.
whoever. So, you know, we need to remember that even though I guess it wouldn't be anonymous then, but
Mhm.
if there is enough of a concern, hopefully the students will step
Mhm.
forward and not worry about logging into safe to tell.
How was the initial report made?
There were, my understanding is there were a couple of,
Persons.
several safe to tell ones,
Yeah.
but at least a couple of personal reports.
Yeah.
So I don't know what order they came in, or I don't know how that
Mhm.
happened, but it was just an
Mhm.
article I read, but there were some personal reports, so.
Mhm. I think it was both, yeah.
so.
now I know that one concern that came up was the office
Mhm.
and phone coverage in the office, and that is something we will work on and we will
Yeah.
address.
Yeah, every classroom has a phone in it,
Mhm.
so, you know, there's still access in the classroom, to phones. And so that's important to note. I will say that, you know, certainly when there's phones that aren't answered at schools, that's problematic, and something that, when parents bring that to our attention, we are following up on that, because there's no excuse for a phone at a school to ring and ring and ring and not have somebody answer, so. So those are definitely issues. But there are phones in every classroom, multiple phones in the front office, so.
This policy will kind of, you know, point out the things that need to be tweaked, you know, I mean, it's not just this, it's
I
not
do
just
want to
the
share,
kids.
we've had kindergarten teachers who have reported that children are getting calls on their watch from their parents during the school day. We had a high school student who got a call from his boss who wanted him to come in at 1 o'clock instead of the 4 o'clock regular schedule. I mean, there's things that sometimes are just like, come on, people. You know, you're in class,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
If there's a concern, certainly call the school. We'll get your child to the phone. You know, we will never prevent a child from talking to their parent, but this just, I don't know, gets to a point where, you know, that disrupts the entire kindergarten room, and then, so.
Yeah. Again, I think it's gonna be everybody learning new habits. You know, the kids, the teachers, the parents, everybody.
So is there something in particular that would be helpful to the board to put on the survey? Is there something that you'd like to get parent feedback on with regard to this?
I think we should just ask them to kind of summarize the policy, and if
Yeah.
they're okay with that.
Yeah, just ask, yeah, here's what we're considering.
The problem with the survey is, what, maybe 30% fill it out?
Yeah, we actually had better response last year. I think we had about half of our families responded last year, so it was much better than past years, but I think this type of an issue may cause people to fill it out.
Well, and you made it shorter and a little bit.
Yeah, we shortened it.
Easier.
Yeah,
It's
there's
not-
5 questions on
Yeah.
each school, so it's not the 40 questions that you have to answer 4 times if you have kids in 4 schools, so. But yeah, we could definitely summarize it. I'll share it with all of you, make sure that you're satisfied that we've summarized
I
what
think
we're
a
looking
high-level
at.
summary
Yeah.
is good, and then
Yeah.
probably the lunch issue is probably a specific question we
Yeah.
need to get feedback on.
Yeah.
Yes or no on lunchtime.
Mhm.
So then we'll probably need to tweak. Again, like Dave said, put an option in there for, you know, versus, I hate the word confiscating.
Mhm.
You know,
Mhm.
versus surrendering your phone
Mhm.
for the day, you know, call the
Yep.
parent for retrieval.
Yep.
And, say, other than that,
Hmm.
Will you take action on this time?
Well, for first reading.
It's a first
Yeah,
reading.
just first reading,
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, we do a roll call on first reading.
yeah.
Doesn't mean it's final yet.
Mhm.
There still is, I mean, as a person who has been watching, you know, the school district, the TikTok videos and all the videos over the last 5 or 6 years, there's some teachers who have done some bad things in classrooms. And I don't think we really have a lot of that here. But it has been in an emergency situation where a child needs to record a teacher basically breaking the law. That's helpful.
Yeah, yeah.
Well, and,
So, I mean, and that's on the other side of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But this policy does also address the, whether the phones are off or on. This addresses the things that are not allowed to be done regardless, and that is creating audio or video recordings of student or staff without their permission, taking pictures in the locker rooms and bathrooms, et cetera. For, cheating, obviously, no, all the sexting and all the sexually aggressive things and bullying and all that stuff. So there's a very specific list of things that, are not allowed anytime. So I think that's a good one. And then also, I think somebody brought this up last time, but we do also have an exception is when it is specifically authorized under an IEP or a 504 plan or a healthcare plan, that they can use the phones.
Yeah.
They can have them on because, if it's specifically in their IEP or whatever, then they can use them. So, we tried to build in all the practical stuff and all the real stuff that we have to consider. And, I think we.
And, if you look under
Got a good start.
exceptions, under exceptions as well, it says students may be permitted to access their phone during emergency situations, to initiate communication with their parents or other family members. Such permission will be directed by the staff member in charge during an incident, such an incident. So it's still under direction.
I do also want to point out, I've had a couple of parents who have questioned teacher use of cell phones, and I do want to point out, if a teacher is using it for personal reasons, that's unacceptable. And we have had situations where that's been reported, that I'm taking a call to schedule my nail appointment or haircut. That's unacceptable. We do have teachers also who will use their phone to text a special ed teacher because a child is having some huge challenges. And it's that or call over the radio and say, hey, Rhonda needs help in my room. Well, every school has a radio, and does Rhonda's confidentiality has just been breached. So teachers do use their phones to text their special educator to say, hey, can you come to my room? Rhonda needs some additional support. She's got some anxiety. She's having some challenges right now. And so every teacher using a cell phone is not necessarily taking the hair appointment phone call. So that's the challenge is, our radios are great. Everyone has a radio. But because everyone has a radio, if I were to call on something that's, related to David, everybody in the building is going to hear about David's issue. And so the cell phone is something that teachers will use to communicate with support staff, with administration, so that we're not publicly shaming somebody who might need support.
And plus we have Live Spot.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Lifestyle Spot
it's a
is
cell phone
critical.
app.
Yep.
So
Teachers need that.
Yeah. So I think we have a lot of work to do, but I'll summarize this for the survey for this week and make sure that it's in there with outline, and then specifically ask, with this policy, lunch, yes or no. And outline the rationale for it and against it. Outline, again, and then
I would
certainly.
do lunch and passing periods.
Lunch and passing period.
I mean, I'm not a fan of this policy, not at all. I understand there are distractions in the classroom, like I said last time. But to ban it during lunch and passing periods when instructional time is not happening, I think is ridiculous.
Yeah. Passing periods are challenging from the standpoint of you've got X number of minutes to get from point A to point B. There have been a couple of social media sites that have been created by students that sometimes focus on posting unflattering pictures of students. And of course those are anonymous social media sites, but then you get kids who are you know, in compromising positions between classes, and they get posted on social media, so, passing periods are challenging because they're so short, so
Yeah, very
5
short.
minutes to get from point A to point B, get to your locker, get your things, and get, lunch. And again, there's arguments for it. I will tell you, when my children first got their flip phones, years and years ago, I was one of those parents who went through and turned it off from the start of class period to the end of class period, and I did have it on during passing periods. That was my compromise with my children was, you know, you're not using it during class. I could see when calls or text messages were being initiated, and when I saw, wow, there's an awful lot of text messages during class, I shut them down. I had the app to be able to say, this phone does not work from this time to this time. Of course, that was before smartphones and LifeSpot and all of these other tools, but anyways, I think passing period, so ask about passing period and lunch, maybe a different question about
Separate
each.
questions, yeah.
Okay.
Well, and there have been bullying incidents that have been brought to my attention, and I won't go into specifics, but you have kids who they set a hotspot on their phone. They make their phone a hotspot, and they use a name that is derogatory or picks on other kids. And it's out there for everybody to see that's got their phone. So, I mean, does that benefit outweigh the potential ramifications? I don't know.
All right, we'll get a survey out and then get those responses back to you.
And one caveat too is, you know, we're going through all of this, and this is good, but it's potentially, the state could pass something that we don't, you know.
And then we don't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So, any further discussion? Okay. All right, can I get a roll call?
Did you read the whole motion?
I thought I did.
Remember?
Yeah.
Did she?
Yeah.
Okay.
John second.
Oh, yes, yeah. Director Callahan,
I,
Director Fletcher,
Aye.
Director Olson,
Aye.
Director Powell,
Aye.
Director Waller.
Aye.
And just to be clear to the public, that does not mean this is passed, it
Yeah.
just means
No.
we've acknowledged that we've looked at it once. And I want to thank the community, because I think, again, we're stronger when we get feedback from everyone. So thank you, everyone who came tonight and shared their thoughts and ideas. And I think adding it to the survey will give us a broader feedback, and certainly be public with what those results are. So.
Okay, next up, board planning, new business. Our next board meeting is gonna be on March 24th, 2025. It's gonna be here in the district office at 6 p.m. Did anybody else have any new business, anything they wanted to bring up? All right. So with that, I call this meeting adjourned at
That's
Don't
not
trust
right.
it. 7:28.
7:28 p.m.
One of these days, all our clocks will be
Yeah.
Digital.